Welcome to Deleted Saves. On this episode, Alien vs. Predator for the arcade. Man, pop culture is a funny thing, isn't it? There have been many games that have started due to being a tie in to a movie or TV show, or a number of movies or shows that have started as a game and then became a success that critics kept repeating the phrase of having quote unquote broke the curse of being unsuccessful, as if such a things were real. Or flop because no one but gamers would be interested in the property. But what happens when we get a game that was supposed to be a tie in, only to have that tie in property not appear? We'll explore that a bit in today's topic, 1994's Alien vs. Predator. Ever since the original release of Alien in 1979, and then Predator in 1987, 8 years apart, fans of the franchises have salivated at the idea of these two sci-fi monsters duking it out for universal supremacy. At first, 20th Century Fox, who owns both properties, showed no interest in mixing the franchises. I can only assume because of the big names, both in front of and behind the camera, driving the success of both creature features. But in 1990, they did allow Dark Horse Comics to do an Alien vs. Predator comic. But unless you were into comics or a fan of those movies, it's likely that they went under most people's radars. What really set tongues wagging was 1990's Predator 2, the sequel to Predator. In the late minutes of the movie, when actor Danny Glover enters the Predator ship to fight the villain of the film, he spies a skull trophy wall upon which is mounted several human and alien with a small a skulls. However, there is a xenomorph skull from the Alien with a capital A franchise, and fans went nuts with the implications. The truth is, it was a production in-joke. The Predator Effects team's way of tweaking the collective noses of the Alien and Aliens teams by saying, "Our monster is stronger than your monster." But the damage was done. People wanted the two to fight and settle who was the best space monster once and for all. I'd put my money on the Thing, but that's not an option here. Now, fans of the franchises wouldn't actually get that Monster Mash movie until 2004, with a film that was, shall we say, widely panned by both fans and critics. Now, with movie critics, generally they can be safely ignored, as their job is to pan anything cool that isn't the fetishizing of a national or personal tragedy, or the maudlin and perverse voyeurism of society's deepest and darkest sexual deviancy. Really, I get the idea that being a professional movie critic is all about voyeurism and masturbation. But when the fans hate it, that thing must really, really suck. Because fans will find an excuse for most anything they like if it's even halfway decent and touches all the cornerstones of piddling and ultimately silly and pointless lore. But 2004's AVP got no such mercy. Apparently, though, we got really close to getting that movie in 1994. And today's game selection is the result of that. The story starts sometime in the near-distant future. Yes, you heard me. The city of Sandrad, California, is somehow overrun by aliens, brought to Earth by who the fuck even knows at this point, because holy shit, an alien hive has erupted on Earth and we're fucked. But if you can't find Sandrad on your map at home, don't worry. It's likely a mistranslation from Japanese into English of either El Dorado or San Diego, California. Alien vs. Predator is another Capcom joint. And they were the undisputed arcade kings of this time, but neither the Japanese home offices nor the American satellite offices were without blame for incorrect translations. In any case, the colonial marines have abandoned the city, and what surviving citizens are left are to the rapidly multiplying alien horde, and only two war machine cyborgs remain. Major Dutch Schaefer, based very much on Arnold Schwarzenegger's character from the first Predator movie, and with a smart gun for an arm, and Lieutenant Lin Kurosawa, a katana-wielding fighter who seems to be based somewhat on the Dark Horse AVP comic book character of Machiko Noguchi, and another character that would have been the human star of the then in-draft movie called The Hunt, Alien vs. Predator. When Schaefer and Kurosawa are about to be overrun and killed, a swath of charging aliens are cut apart by unknown energy weapons, and the Predators reveal themselves. Thinking they're about to die to two different alien species, the new combatants state that they are here to help, and the Predator Warrior and Predator Hunter join the party ranks. Now, oddly enough, this is not a four-player game, but a three-player game, and players could choose to be any combination of the three characters, with the fourth usually covering the plot armored rear. While our human cyborgs are fighting to survive, the predators are killing for glory. There are 7 stages, the first few being the city streets and sewers, each ending in a twisted alien boss which has taken on the biology of some local creatures to turn them into mutant dinosaurs and other super beasts. The characters find that this whole infestation is the result of biological experiments for breeding super soldiers by a General Bush of the Colonial Marines, who is in the pocket of franchise familiar corporate villains Whale and Yutani, who are behind most of the really awful decisions in the Alien Universe franchise. This General Bush has allowed a queen alien to breed out of control just to see what will happen, and despite the characters having defeated it along the way, it escapes to points unknown. When the team boards a Colonial Marine ship and start hacking their way through human foes for the first time, Bush curses them for their intervention in his money making breeding scheme, only to be killed when the Queen shows back up, much like a Queen alien did in the movie Aliens, and kills the General. The team must defeat her once and for all, and then must crash the ship into Sandrad, thereby nuking the whole city and the ship, stopping this menace once and for all. Once they escape, but before both parties can walk away, the Predators make it clear that they will return, and next time they will be hunting Schaefer and Kurosawa, as they have proved their prowess in battle. Man, these beat 'em up plots didn't need to be any more than a paragraph long. Tight, simple, to the point. But then again, they were made for quarter-munching machines with slightly too much unforgiving difficulty, and I guess there couldn't be afford to be too deep at that point. As I mentioned earlier, this game was supposed to be a tie-in property with an adaptation of the Aliens vs. Predator comic that would have been the aforementioned The Hunt, Alien vs. Predator. Or at least as far as I can tell. It's getting a little hazy in the back rooms of pop culture history as the decades have gone on. But eventually that whole script was dumped for the usual Hollywood reasons. Too expensive, lack of interest from investors, too many writers making changes, couldn't nail down stars, sequel bloat killing enthusiasm, couldn't find a way to evade taxes with it, etc. But the game had already been completed, so 20th Century Fox and Capcom put it out into arcades as a standalone game. And it was a big hit. Critics and fans loved the game, and it still ranks among the best all-time beat-em-ups and arcade games on many lists, both in its graphics quality, speed and fluidity of play, and characters that people just wanted to play as. Extremely high praise for a licensed arcade cooperative brawler from the 16 to 32-bit arcade era, something that was obviously graphically of a certain time, but also more powerful than something home consoles could produce at the time. Then again, this is a Capcom product, who in the 90s went from strength to strength across multiple divisions. Despite this success, for a long time this arcade game was more of a phantom than anything, as it was never ported to a home console. So if you wanted to play it, you had to be lucky enough to actually find the damn thing, which is how I learned of it. Longtime listeners of Deleted Saves have probably heard me talk about the Mall, our local capitalist depot among the rotting homes and collapsing coal mines of my home sweet home. Now, while the arcade up the road from the Mall never did get this cabinet, strangely enough, the Mall's food court did, when they converted a corner of a food court to that once contained some failed fucking business of some sort or another. I forget what that was. And it became a mini arcade with some crappy claw machines, air hockey, and a few also ran games to fill its walls when bored teenagers tried to impress their even more bored teenage girlfriends with their gaming prowess in between slices of pizza or national chain Chinese takeout and B-grade movies on Saturday nights when literally nothing else was going on. Or where weirdos like me came to play games and socialize because there wasn't even a whiff of anything female even remotely near us, so we had a lot of free time. Alien vs. Predator was a monster, no pun intended, of a game in the arcade. Heart-pounding, not too difficult, but just hard enough, full of sci-fi horrors in a run-and-gun and punch action game where me and my friends could bash the hell out of everything in sight. There was a story there, thin but more meaty than Go Here Rescue Girl, as it could be completed within about an hour if you were having a good session. What more could you ask for? I'm sure some of you would say a lot, but nah, it was just what we needed it to be. But it was such a fucking cuckoo egg in the gaming nest, and it's not like there weren't other licensed arcade titles out there, that it stood out like a nun in an orgy. I just assumed it would be ported to home console, or maybe that I'd missed it, especially when other licensed AVP titles came to console or PC. But none of them were this game. And as I've said, it never came home. I'm sure that there is somewhat comedically ironic statement in that, as the game is centered around aliens invading Earth instead of a deep space mining ship. But the game can now be found on emulation, so anyone willing to download it can experience this title for themselves. Alien vs. Predator, the arcade beat 'em up that is with many more titles that share its name, was distilled perfection of the genre and an amazing experiment. I'm very glad Capcom was able to release this one to the public without having to deal with the vague bullshit that Hollywood plops on the viewing public so often. It could have easily been a cancelled title, since the movie tie-in disintegrated faster than the Stromo's ship deck splashed with alien guts. But we got it, and that was a minor bit of sci-fi magic all its own. Thank you for listening. Deleted Saves would like to thank Brad for being a patron of the show. If you would like to become a patron of the show, please go to patreon.com and check out Deleted Saves podcast. All donations go directly towards maintaining the show itself. Thank you.